What's up, everyone? This is your host and founder, Alina Shell, back with another phenomenal episode of I'm Breaking into Tech. And this episode is all about cybersecurity. Now, I know this is a buzzword. Everybody's been talking about cyber in the tech space, but a lot of people don't really know much about it or even how to break in, what roles are available. But I actually have a guest that I'm bringing on today who can tell you not only all about what he does, but also how you can break into cyber as well. So, without further ado, I'll bring on my next guest, and here he is. Hey,
Hey Leah, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Can you take a brief moment to introduce yourself? Let us know where you're coming from and what you do as well.
Sure thing. So my name is Kenneth Ellington. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I work as a sim engineer for a Big Four consulting and accounting firm.
Okay, awesome. And I also see that you are a founder. Of course, we'll get into that a little bit later. But not only are you a sim engineer, you actually have your own cybersecurity training business. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that, Kenneth. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, what did you actually do before tech, or have you always had a tech job?
So before I got into the tech industry, I worked as a daily clerk at Publix supermarkets back in my hometown in Tampa, Florida. And I fried chicken and made sandwiches to help out customers. So that's what I did for about 4.5 years. Midway between that, I got promoted to go to corporate for our corporate headquarters, and I worked as a threat intelligence engineer there.
Okay. So, what did you do in between that? So, how did you go from, making now I love them subs, by the way, like public subs, those are so good. So, how did you like skip from working at Publix to being a engineer? Like, what was the in between?
So when I was working at Publix for being a deli clerk, I went to the University of South Florida, which stands for USF. I got my degree there, and while I worked there, I networked with different professionals, and I was able to kind of share my story with some of my managers. And one of the things I tell my students is always to speak your true passion towards people, so they're able to speak on your behalf when you're not inside of the room. And that's what I did. And when my managers knew that the director of cybersecurity for Publix, and he just happened to come towards our store one day, she asked, "They want to meet him?" I said, "Of course." And then I met him. We talked about different topics, and he gave me step-by-step instructions he wanted me to do to be on this internship team next year because it was that summer, so the spot was already filled. And he said if I can do all these steps on this list, he can guarantee me a spot on this team next year. And so I told him I would do everything that he asked me to. Fast forward 9 months, I interview for his team and I get the spot.
Awesome. So, it sounds like you went to school for tech. What was your major?
My major was MIS or Management of Information Systems and then cybersecurity.
Okay. So the role that you actually landed, what was the name of that position? And is that entry level for somebody who is just coming out of college, or can anyone do that whether they have a college degree or not?
I wouldn't say my job's entry level for what I do.
For what you
Probably
did when you got your first job out of Publix.
um it depends on what company you work for. Some would say yes, someone would say no. But I probably wouldn't say it's entry level, honestly.
Okay. So what type of experience do you have to have?
I would probably say having a little bit of cybersecurity experience would be helpful. I had it, I had help desk experience. I used to work at a local church, so I believe that helped out a little bit as well. But the biggest thing is building those connections and networking. That's honestly what got me the job.
Okay. So if I am talking to someone who's interested in cybersecurity, they don't come from a technical background like myself, um, and they're interested in breaking in. They may have a degree, but they might not have a degree in information systems management or even, uh, you know, uh, computer science. What would you tell them to look at first, as far as like getting into a role similar to what you got into, or like those entry level roles? Like, what are the names of those entry level positions?
So the advice I would give that person is to probably look to go inside a technology company, preferably, because if they're able to do that, they may be able to pivot from a non-technical role or a technical role that isn't cybersecurity. to get inside
Okay.
of, let's say, an engineering role. Um, I think that might be helpful for them. So they may get a role as like a business analyst, and then they network inside the firm. Then after a year, they want to move towards like an engineering or SOC analyst role, for example.
Okay. So your suggestion is not for them to basically try to jump from where they're at into a role in cyber, but to kind of use their non-technical skills to get into tech a non-technical role altogether, like a business analyst, and then try to make that pivot thereafter.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I would say that for a couple of reasons. The first one is once you're inside of a company, it's a lot easier to get a job in your desired role because they already know who you are, right? Instead of you going straight outside of the company to try to do it.
Mhm.
And it is very hard to get a job in cybersecurity, especially for entry level positions.
That makes sense. So again, like what are some of those entry level positions? Like what are the titles of those?
Some of them may be GRC analysts, but that basically means governance, risk, and compliance. SOC analyst, and that stands for Security Operations Center.
Mhm.
Um, some may be an operations engineer, operations analyst. Those are a couple to
So
name.
So most of them are going to be like analyst roles, and I've actually seen SOC analyst roles pop up quite a lot. And even GRC. I know we even have GRC at my company. So in order to get a role like that, you do have to have some type of certification and or experience, right?
First, for most firms, yes, they'll require you to have at least, I would say, maybe 1 to 2 years experience doing some type of compliance or governance or risk support, some shape, form, or fashion. Some may require certification, some may require degrees, some may not care at all. They just want to know that you're able to do the job and you fit inside the culture. So it really just depends.
So how can someone get any experience in that? So if they've not been to college for it, and they they don't really have like a certification or anything like that. Is there a way for someone to get experience in this for someone who's not even of like college or internship age?
I would say yes. So a couple things you can do. You can either try to volunteer for someone, which I personally don't like because I don't like working for free for most companies because they make millions of dollars, right? So they should pay us.
Mm,
But if
fact.
you have to do what you have to do to get towards your end goal, you can volunteer initially. Once you actually get a small portfolio going, they can start to actually charge people for your services. That's one way to actually gain proper experience. The other way is to build home labs, right? So build and try to model a lab for a corporate environment, and then configure, design, and scale it up, and then secure it. If you're able to do that and you're able to properly show that, um, that's a very helpful way to get ahead of other people. A lot of people don't want to get hands on. Um, that's very important inside of our field. Another thing to do, which kind of go back to volunteering, is to actually do speaking engagements or again volunteer at different conferences. The conference that's local to most, I would say, areas is called B-Sides. So there'll be a B-Sides Nashville, B-Sides Charlotte, a B-Sides Tampa. And they happen once a year around those various cities. You can volunteer there as well.
That was a gem right there. So I live in North Carolina, so I don't live too far from the Charlotte location. And actually, in North Carolina, for those who are watching, there are a few different tech hubs that are actually growing. So we have the Raleigh area, and that is going to be popular for cybersecurity if you all are interested. And then we also have Charlotte. Charlotte is a new and up and coming new tech hub, but they mostly specialize in fintech. But you will see some cybersecurity companies out that way as well. So that's a great plug there. Okay, so we got volunteer, make sure you do like at home projects, and then also networking. Now, when you say model a lab, like what does that process look like? Is there any free or discounted platforms that people can go on and create a portfolio? Because that's essentially what it sounds like you're doing.
Yeah, so you can go. So I should put this. You can go on, I would say, what is it? I think Bytes Network. There's like Cloud Guru, name a few. Bits FN. I'm probably butchering these names, but if you put in Google, you probably figure it out.
It's all good. So yeah,
And
Cloud Guru is one. And this, what is that? Is that just like a open source that you can
yeah,
kind of play around?
yeah, they have free available labs, so you can pay a monthly fee for it to get the better version of it. and you're able to basically go inside and do different assignments inside of it. The only issue with those environments is a lot of times they will particularly deploy the lab environment for you. So it's just like a login and you do it. So you actually get to learn what the backend processes of the systems work, which is very important if you want to be an
Okay.
engineer. Um,
That's awesome. Now, Kenneth, if you were in a different position, so I know you said your father was in IT for 27 years before you got into the field, right?
yes.
So before you got into the field, um, or excuse me, if you didn't have that, I don't know, I'm I'm blanking out. But if you didn't have that role model like in your father, or you were trying to start this process over again, would you still take the same route, or what is something different that you would do to get into the industry?
I would say probably a lot of the same concepts will still apply. Reach out to different people, let people know what you're actually doing, which is very important. Because I've gotten a lot of people that have given me job opportunities that I didn't even know existed because I just told them I did cybersecurity, and I was the first person that thought of when the opportunity came up. Right, so just doing that's very important. Building a proper support group is one of the biggest things that, regardless if you're not in cybersecurity, I think is super important. Because the further up you get the mountaintop, the more people will want to try to pull you down. Sadly, so having the group of people that actually care about you, regardless if it's beneficial towards their own progression, is insanely important. If you don't have that, you won't get very far in this field.
Okay. I feel like that can be applied to pretty much any type of industry and any job, honestly. Having a great support system is pivotal, especially when you are trying to enter in a new field or even make a transition like a lot of our tech explorers view in this show. Okay. So what are some other communities that you're a part of, like some other organizations that you have been able to build community with?
So the biggest one I'm a part of is called Blacks in Cybersecurity, or BIC
Okay.
for short. That's like a conference group, a networking group that promotes people of color that look like us inside the cybersecurity field. So we're able to get jobs, network, equal people, and feel supported. Um, because there's not a lot of people that look like us inside the field of Leah. So we're trying to bridge that gap as much as we can. So I initially got inside of them back in college. So after I finished my internship, I still want to keep and retain that knowledge and still be a part of the cybersecurity community. So I became a campus ambassador for them, and I help run events and do networking opportunities for them. And I've done that basically ever since 2019. So now I do actual training for them.
Okay, so I'm sure organizations like that, you guys, those is so important when you're trying to make a career transition because I always tell a lot of people that, you don't always want to feel like you have to go in it alone or that you have to jump straight into a training program or anything like that. When you don't even know if you're going to be successful or if you're going to like that industry, I always encourage people to find organizations like the Blacks in Cybersecurity organization or any other organization. I'm actually a part of an organization that is international. It's called Blacks in Tech. Um, and I'm pretty sure you guys have seen many of their events. If not, just look it up online. There are so many different opportunities out there for not only just people of color, but anybody that's interested in a specific sector. So that way you can fellowship, you can network, you can do virtual training events, you can look at webinars, you can go to in-person events, and then you can also just utilize their free resources. Start there because that's going to give you a general overview of the industry, get you familiar with the language and the culture, and then you can start to have those conversations with individuals like Kenneth, who are already in the industry. And if they feel like you've done your research, then they'll be more inclined as well to help you further that along. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Okay. So talk to me a little bit more about your role as a founder. Like, how did you transition from the role that you have now as a SIM engineer, or are you doing them both at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so what does that look like, and is that a conflict of interest?
No.
How are we doing that?
I I got initially approved by my job before I started my other business. It's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. Initially, I didn't ever want to become a business owner. I thought it was a terrible idea. Didn't understand why anybody would ever want to do it. To be completely honest with you, but it was the fact that I've done professional training for the past 3 years. I've taught at the University of Houston, among other places, and people kept asking me, "Hey, Kenneth, I really like the way you teach. You teach me this, you teach me that." After a while, someone once told me, "You know what, Kenneth? If you actually charge me for this, I would pay you." I'm like, "Oh, really?" But then again, I'm like, no, there's no way Kenneth can ever be a business owner. That sounds like a terrible idea, Kenneth. Don't do it. It wasn't until like spring of last year that I decided to actually start charging for it to test it out, and it went really well. And so I kind of said screw it and decided to start my own business doing it to see how far I could take it. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So you've been in business for at least a year now.
yeah, about 16 months.
Okay. That's awesome. So with that, like what is your business model? Are you like doing online coaching? Is it in person, one-on-one group? What does that look like?
I would say it is like personalized training. So either one-on-one coaching and training or group coaching and training. So we normally have classes like every Wednesday night. Then we help the students out with different topics relating to SIM and SOAR, endpoint security technologies. We run different demos and bring in different guest speakers to try to help them out and enhance an experience with them.
Okay. And with that, I know you're saying we, how many coaches do you have?
So it's me and my co-instructor and apprentice, Courtney Wright.
Okay. That's awesome. So if someone is interested in training with you, like what are some of the prerequisites?
So normally, the way it works is they fill out an application through my Calendly link or online. We scan it, make sure they're good fit. So some of the things we look for, especially our soft skills, is a big thing. I can teach anybody basically any technology stack, but I can't teach you not to be an a-hole to somebody, right? You either kind of have that or you don't.
I'm
That's a
telling
big, the big,
you.
the big thing in our field.
That's
Um,
every that's across the tech industry, period.
yeah. So everyone has a proper, I would say, attitude for it. And if you don't have that, it's very hard for me to work with you. Honestly. And now we try to look for if you have some type of tech experience, but it's not required. We're just honest with people and tell them if you don't have any tech experience, it makes it harder, but it's still definitely possible. It may take you a little bit longer compared to other people. Um, but if you have the proper attitude and you're willing to put in the work, then we'll work with you.
Okay. So what do they get out of training with you? Do they get a portfolio built? Is it a certification that's involved? What does that look like?
So with us, they'll get certain skill sets, which they can put into their portfolio, which we normally do that through Card, which is like a free website builder. And they can save the links and attributes of that towards that site and post it towards employers. So normally some of the skill sets they might get is like learning Splunk Enterprise Security, all different apps and functions that go along with that. Then some source skills as well, some blue team concepts, some cloud skills and some DevOps skills. And then probably the coolest thing we do is we have capstone assignments. So capstone assignments are very hard. I will not lie to people. We do it that way to make sure when they actually get on the job, they're not surprised by anything that's happening on their job, right? So you can't
Love
always
that.
just like call me on the job and like, I don't know how to do this, right? Um, so we try to prepare them as properly as possible. We actually bring in different hiring managers and different judges from industry to try to judge your projects. So with that, they'll actually get to talk towards these managers are sometimes looking for people. If you do well on a project and you really showcase your skill set, they may want to talk to you afterwards to try to give you a job.
Love that. So you already have relationships with people that are in the industry.
Yes.
Okay. And what's your success rate been looking like? How many students have you placed so far in roles?
So we've onboarded about 22 or so students since we've started up. I would say only half of them have actually finished the program. Um, a lot of them have to drop out either due to it being too hard, the time constraints, or them changing their minds. But out of those 12 or so people, I believe 11 of them have gotten either a new job, a promotion, or a pay raise.
Okay. So you're not only training people from no cyber skills to cyber, you're training people who are already working and then they're trying to up level as well. So this will
Yes,
be a good opportunity for those who are just looking to go from being an analyst to an engineer.
yes.
Okay. And but there are still opportunities for those who are just coming off of the street, so to speak, and want to be an analyst at least.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate that, Kenneth. This does sound like a really good opportunity, but how long does your training program last?
So the program is about 6 months long. Um, the last step of the program is a hiring step. So we bring in a consultant or another manager we bring in. His name's Hunter Davis. He owns Tech Tool Consulting. You may have heard of him before. So he does the LinkedIn and resume profiles. So to make our students look pretty for the hiring managers. Um, but I would say that on average, it takes anywhere between 2 to 4 months after the program ends to land a role or that new promotion. It may take longer, it may be shorter, it just depends on the experience level.
Awesome. And do you have any guarantees for your students? Like if they don't land a role here, you get this or that? You have anything like that?
So our guarantee is we will continue to help with you till you find your end result. So basically, you have access towards me until you get what you're looking for: new job, new promotion, learn those new skills. Everyone's a little bit different.
Love that. That's priceless. Okay. Awesome. So not only did you go from Publix, you went from public like being the deli clerk to working in corporate, talk to your dad, while also being a college student and majoring in MIS. Unfortunately, you didn't get to walk across the stage for graduation
No.
since you graduated during COVID. I'm so sorry about that. But on the positive side, you've been able to network very heavily. Like that's been your biggest thing is networking and letting people know, like, hey, I want to get into cybersecurity. I'm interested in cybersecurity. And just by that, your education and grit alone, you've been able to scale into becoming a SIM engineer. And then also a founder of your own consulting company. So I love that journey. Now, are there any tips that you want to leave our audience today with how that they can make these similar transitions?
Yes. A couple of tips. The first one would be please do your research. That's the biggest thing I get. The people come to me ask me, I want to do cybersecurity. I ask them, great, which sector, right? That's it can be threat intelligence, it can be blue teaming, DevOps security, cloud security, software engineering, XDR engineering, right? It can literally all just depend. If you don't tell me what you want to do, right, my advice for you will be completely different, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is, which goes back to some of my other advice that I gave earlier, is find people that you trust, right? Not everyone is out there to see you succeed. There are people out in this field that are just there to take your money, so just be wary of that, right? And then the last thing I would say is once you find your niche, make sure you put in the proper time and effort to reach your goals and take this from a long-term view. Because it took me about a year to get my first role, and I was doing probably 60, 70 hours a week between school and work. Slept in my car sometimes because I was too tired to drive back home. So it's a lot of work, right? But it's completely worth it just to take the long-term view of it.
Love that. Love that. So definitely, I definitely agree with you on the research thing. And this is just something that I tell people in general. A lot of people will come to you and just say, hey, can you help me get a job or can you help me get into this? And they haven't done the research about the industry. And also, sometimes they haven't done enough research about you to find out if you can even help them or if you even have the knowledge about said industry. So, my advice would be if there's anyone who's watching this, especially if those who are on LinkedIn, I would encourage you all to not only look at the individual's page profile and see what their journey was, but also when you reach out to them, mention something about their journey that intrigues you or that interests you or that you found a commonality with, and then also let them know that what you're interested in, just like Kenneth said, and let them know like, hey, I'm interested in cybersecurity. I see that you went from working from Publix to now being a SIM engineer. I work at Publix and I'm looking to be, following your footsteps. Like, what advice can you give me? That's a better introduction than be like, hey, Kenneth, how can I get into cyber? He'll be like, what? Like, who are you? Who are you, person? Especially if you've never interacted with them, which you don't necessarily have to interact with people ahead of time, but it does create a warm entry, right? But if not, at least show them that you've done your research and you know at least enough about the industry to at least present some language to them. So being able to know the difference between what a GRC analyst is, a SOX analyst, like all of the different many sectors of cybersecurity is going to be very beneficial for you. And just also understanding the many different layers of the tech industry. I know this podcast is called I'm Breaking Into Tech, but what I really want you all to realize is, or to choose is like niche down and figure out what portion of tech do you want to break into. Do you want to do cyber? Do you want to do IT? Do you want to do software development, be in that space? Do you want to do cloud? Like there's so many different areas within that. And then you also have to niche down even more and find out what roles support that specific sector even further. But of course, cyber is its own beast. I'm not an expert in it. If you want to learn a little bit more, you have Kenneth here, right, to tell you a little bit more about his experiences. But yeah, I appreciate all of that input. Now, Kenneth, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with before we wrap up and get to the next portion?
I would say just to trust yourself, right? Don't get too down in the dumps if things don't work out. Because again, this can take a while, right? So just stay on the path. Focus on your skill set, focus on your attitude, and you'll be in pretty good shape.
Okay, excellent. And how can people reach out to you if they're interested in learning a little bit more about your course?
I would say LinkedIn is probably the best way. My name's Kenneth Ellington again on LinkedIn. I have a high top page. I look a lot different. That picture I was like 6 years ago.
That's funny.
But
You're
I
gonna have
feel
to update
basically the same. Yeah.
that. Okay, so LinkedIn, and also Kenneth's information will be linked below this video, along with a discount code for his course. So if you actually use my discount code, you will get some money off of the course, and of course that will also benefit our podcast, so we can continue to bring on great guests, and eventually we can get us a studio. So yeah, y'all use my discount link and go get your job. And what is the average salary of a cybersecurity analyst? Let's start there. I meant to ask you that earlier.
It'll depend by location. But I think it's like around between 90 to 95K.
Okay. So yeah, so let's stay in the South since we're in the South. So 90 to 95K for those below the Mason-Dixon line. Is that fair?
It might be a little bit less. I know like in Tampa for like an entry level one, it's between like 60 and 80, I believe.
Okay. And what does that compensation structure look like? Do you guys get bonuses or anything like that?
For some firms, they'll get bonuses, right? If you're like, let's say, a junior analyst, right, or straight out of college, they may not. You may just be straight salary. So it may just be like they gave you 70 or 65K to start off. And then as you move up to like a senior analyst, they may give you like a bonus, may give you more incentives. So this depends on the firm.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kenneth. So it was great. It was a pleasure having you on. I can't wait to see how many people actually join your course and make it to the next side to be a cybersecurity analyst or even become a SIM engineer like yourself. But thank you for your time, and I will talk to you later.
All right, see you around, Leah.
All right. Well, there you have it, you guys. So you guys been asking me for a longest, like, Aaliyah, can you help me get into cyber? Do you know anything about cyber? I can't tell you guys anything about cybersecurity, but I brought on someone who can. So get in touch with Kenneth. He has a lot of knowledge about the industry. Of course, he does come from a technical background. His father was in the IT industry, but that doesn't necessarily mean that has to be your story. So you may not have a degree in cyber. You may not have a degree at all, but he has an opportunity here where he can bring you on and teach you everything you need to know about becoming a cybersecurity analyst and then working your way up to being an engineer. So if you're coming off of the street and non-technical at all, just reach out to him. Also click the link in the description below for for a discount off of his course, and reach out to me and let me know how you enjoyed the course. But until next time, peace.